Aiya, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today. And obviously, huge shout out to our guy Rick for getting us connected that way. For people who aren't familiar with you and all the incredible things you're doing in the track and field space, and now doing some NIL deals as well that way, would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and just all the incredible things that you have going on?
Thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity to do my first podcast.
Absolutely. For people who aren't familiar with you, would you mind filling them in a little bit about your background in track and field and maybe how we've gotten to this point where we're, competing in the ACC and that sort of thing?
I'm from Beaufort, Georgia. I went to Beaufort High School. And so I was there from like eighth grade to, of course, senior year. And I got into track because of my dad. Like my brother, he was a 1500 runner. And then he also did the 800. So he was pretty good at that, like, when he was, like, 8 years old or something like that, and so, like, I was just like, "Wow," like, I really wanna do this sport because before track, I was doing, like, gymnastics, volleyball, I was doing a little bit of soccer, like, other sports around, like, that can coordinate with track and field. So then my dad, he just put me in track and field, and then I just, like, went from there. First, I started off as, like, a 400 runner, like, just, like, a runner in general, but that just, like, didn't work for me. So I transitioned to the jumps. So first I started off with high jump, which was, it was pretty cool. I think I started that around, I'd say sixth or seventh grade. And then pretty much like I went through my high jump path and then I went to like nationals, like New Balance. I'm pretty sure that's all I went to for high jump, New Balance. And then my sophomore year, I went to New Balance, jumped 5'9" and a quarter. And then, yeah, so then I went on from there. And then pretty much after I transitioned out of high jump, I just went from long to triple, which I do now in college at Clemson. But right now I'm just like focusing on the long jump right now. So that's where like I'm heading towards for the rest of my career, to be honest.
First off, it's amazing to have that kind of like small town upbringing in Georgia that way and now being able to compete pretty close by, right? Clemson, at least the way I'm thinking about it in my head, is not too far from Georgia that way.
Yeah.
Second off, you mentioned that you kind of trialed a lot of different events, had some family influence, and now we've kind of found a home in the jumps that way, which is so fascinating to me. Typically, when I've worked with track and field athletes, we get a lot of pole vaulters or we get a lot of distance or sprints or that sort of thing. Jumping is so impressive to me. Just watching how high or how far you can go because you do both the long jump and the high jump, I think, correct?
Long jump and triple. I used to do high jump, but
You
not.
used to do high jump, I'm sorry, but we do long jump and triple jump, and to me, those are just so fascinating to watch, and maybe it's just because I am terrible at jumping myself, but I'm always blown away and amazed by the distances y'all are able to get that way. I know you said you kinda jumped around events, now we've got our home in jumping that way. I'd love to hear, what does the training regimen for that look like, and how do you kinda go about preparing to jump further than I can even imagine?
So in high school, like, my training, it was, like, pretty chill, like, we didn't do as much running and stuff like that, like, we do, like, a few sprints, like, 20-meter, 30-meter, or, like, 40-meter, like, short sprint type of things and stuff like that, and then once I transitioned to college, my coach has amped up the workouts a lot, and so, like, in the fall with, like, fall training was, it was a lot, but, like, he mentally, like, gets you through it and stuff like that. He pushes you to be great. Well, my coach, he pushes you to be great and stuff like that. So in the fall, like, we do mostly 400 workouts, to get the speed endurance there and stuff like that. Cause since you have 6 jumps, you have to, like, make every single jump count. So that's why we do fall training to, like, have the speed endurance type thing. And then, like, once we transition to, like, indoor, it's, like, not as bad as the fall, but we do a lot of, like, short sprints and stuff like that, but it'll just be, like, less time, so, like, it'll be, like, 150-minute break, 150-minute like, something like that. And then now on the point in the season, like, we're doing, like, the same things, like, 150s, 120s, 80s with, like, longer breaks and stuff like that since we're getting, like, close to, like, championship season and stuff like that, so that's pretty much what we do. And then, like, Monday and Wednesdays, we do jump practice, of course, and, it's been, like, I wouldn't say tough, but, it's, like, been, like, a long, like, journey, like, coaches, like, change techniques and stuff like that, so I had to, like, learn how to, like, a different technique style, which has been going pretty good now, but, like, at first, it's kinda, like, hard and stuff like that, so it's just, like, like, a learning process that, like, I'm still, like, learning and stuff like that.
You mentioning the learning process, I'd imagine that's something almost every athlete goes through as they
Mhm.
transition from high school to college level. And, I'm sure there's been a number of athletes that just absolutely crush it in high school. They go all over the place. You certainly seem like you're one of them, but that jump up to the college level and the jump up to the change in travel and expectations and training and all of that, I'd imagine it just takes time and repetition to really get down the system of what you're gonna be doing for sport, but also the academics and life and all the different things that come with, being in college, I guess I'm trying to say. How have you been able to go about doing that, and what kind of things maybe have surprised you in that transition or caught you off guard, or what kind of things have you learned as you've kind of transitioned yourself from high school to this college athlete world that you're in now?
Well, I'd say it's been definitely a journey, like, it's just, well, a lot of things, like, I just had to deal with a lot of, like, adversity and stuff like that, especially when I first got here in, like, August, like, it's a lot of classes, like, that we have to do in the fall because, we're not really in season, we're really in season in the spring. So just like, a lot of classes and stuff like that, and then like balancing like your own schedule and like things like that and stuff like that. But gladly, like my mom, like she like kept me on a schedule when I was at home. So I kind of like had the flow of like time management and having my own schedule and stuff like that. Um, what really shocked me was definitely that fall training that I was talking about, the running and stuff like that, because I didn't really do a lot of, like, running in high school and things like that, so, like, that was a really big transition for me, and I just had to, get more disciplined with my running and stuff like that, so that was a very big shocker. I say, like, school is not as bad right now because like, we're in season and stuff like that, and, like, classes are, like, less this semester, but I'd say, like I definitely say, like, the college classes are, like I wouldn't say easy, but they're like I wouldn't say
They're just different, right?
yeah,
It's
they're
so it's I'm
yeah,
not in high school anymore, but
yeah,
this isn't impossible by any
yeah.
means. And you're go ahead.
Especially, like, with my major, like, I wanna be a sports agent, so it's like it's not that bad, so yeah.
What is your major for people who aren't, who don't know?
Business management.
Business management. What made you decide, I wanna study business? Because I feel like that's something athletics and sport really lends itself to,
Mm.
quite a bit that way, and I find a lot of carryover from athletes who succeed in sport to athletes who succeed in business endeavors as well.
Yeah. I just feel like, there's, like you can do anything with business, to be honest, so, like, that's why I just wanted to, like, go into that business field and just have, like, that business, like, major, like, on my resume and stuff like that. Because I just feel like, you can do anything with that in this world.
And you mentioned you wanna work in sport long term, and I think there's something absolutely incredible about that, right? Having a background in sport and wanting to make sport kinda your career long term that way as well.
I wanna be a sports agent either in, like, college or just, like, professional sports, and I want to work with, like, specific sports like football, of course, track and field, maybe volleyball and basketball. So, like, that's just where I see myself in a few years, and I don't know what really got me into that. I was just like, I just love sports, and I just wanna continue to be, like, in the sports field, but also on the business side.
What kind of things have you learned just from, like, the travel component of the transition into, college that way? Because it's one of those things I jokingly refer to the ACC as the All Coast Conference now because I just feel like y'all are on the road all the time that way, and as someone who travels a lot myself that way, I love it, but I understand it's drastically different, and it's very difficult sometimes to perform and adjust on the fly, with some of these trips and travel that are involved.
So pretty much indoor. We don't really travel really because we have an indoor track and it's one of like the fastest tracks that everybody wants to come to. So like, we don't really travel to be honest indoor. We only traveled for like ACCs and nationals and that travel wasn't as bad cuz like yeah, it just wasn't as bad. And then for outdoor, we travel almost every single weekend, and we're either gonna go, like, on bus or we're gonna go on a plane. Usually for these past few meets that we've been to, like, UCF and, like, Texas Relays, we had to go by plane because, of course, it's very far. And, I had a eye-opening, situation where I had to leave the day before the meet and stuff like that, which I've never had to do, even though, like, I would say it, like, kinda, like, you know, showed how I performed that the next day, but at the end of the day, it was kinda like a learning experience because like, throughout this journey, like, I do wanna go pro and stuff like that, so, like, you never know, like, how the travel is gonna be when I go pro and stuff like that, so it's like, I'm gonna be in the experience now instead of, like, waiting until later to, like, just be like, "Oh gosh, my body's just, like, not doing so well right now."
What does it look like to go professional in track and field that way? Is that competing for the US and competing abroad and internationally, or what does that
Mhm.
look like?
It's either, like, competing for the USA, of course, and then you have, like, your shoe brands that you can, like, rep, like Puma, Nike, Adidas, um, I don't know if Hoka has one. But, like, all the, like, or, like, Under Armour, like, all, like, the shoe brands, like, you can get, like, deals and stuff like that, and then, like, yeah, you can just, like, compete under them.
And that's one of those things too that I feel like track and field, at least on the professional standpoint, does not get the attention that it deserves, right? If I walk inside and I flip my TV on, I'm sure I could probably find a baseball game. If it was a different part of the year, I could probably find a football game, right? Basketball, that sort of thing. And those are all phenomenal sports, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the athletic component of track and field that just really amazes me. And it's so fascinating to me as well how a lot of coaches from other sports pull ideas from track and field, right? We look at some of these very significant track clubs and track coaches and the impacts that they've had, and we can take those and kind of bleed them over into other sports as well, like soccer and so on that way from our training philosophy. So I really want to see that professional side of track and field grow long term because I think there's so much there and just the feats of athleticism that y'all are able to display are like nothing else. It's really impressive to watch.
I definitely agree, like, I feel like there should definitely be more exposure to track and field, especially in, like, pro level and stuff like that, like, no hate to, like, the other sports, but, like, track and field is just such, like, a unique sport. There's so many different events, there's so many, like, things going on and stuff like that. It's just, like and it's not easy. But I'm not saying, like, all the other sports are easy, but, like, track and field is just I don't know, it's just very unique, like, and I just feel like there should just be more attention to it and stuff like that.
I think that the sport, and I could be totally wrong about this, but anecdotally, I feel like it's growing because I open social media and I see more about it. I see
Yeah.
people talking about it, and I feel like conversations are being had about it now that I don't remember even existing 10 years ago when I was, in college that way. It's like, we know we have a track team, but like I feel like it's growing, and that's a great thing. And obviously, as a sport grows, it leads to opportunities that way. Walk me through kind of how you got involved with Rapid Reboot, and I'd love to hear how you use the compression boots because I'm a big fan of them. I've got a set of them inside myself actually, and I use them a lot for recovery and that sort of thing. But obviously, everyone does different things with them, and I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on that.
So, well, pretty much when I first came here in August, like my coach was talking to our group about, NIL deals and talking about like how we need to post on Instagram to like get all these like views, deals and stuff like that. And so like I started listening to him, I started doing that of course. And then like my page just like blew up out of nowhere and I was just like, "Oh wow, like this is like this might like have something going on." So I kept continuing to do it and like a few videos, like, blew up and stuff like that, and when Rick came to, Clemson University, he talked to my coach, and then my coach just, like, referred to him about me and stuff like that, so then me and Rick had, like, a conversation, like, before I had practice and stuff like that, and we just, like, talked about, like, what Rapid Reboot was and stuff like that, so then we just, like, went on from there. And I've used the boots for, like I feel like I've used them, like, almost every single day since I've got them, but I, like, really like them, like 'Cause I used to have Normatec, and I think my parents still do, but we had, like, a Normatec set at home, and so, like, I would, like, use those and stuff like that, so I already knew, like, how Normatec felt. But then, like, Rapid Reboot, it's just, like, different, like, I don't know, like, the compression's different, like, the way it, like, holds, like, your legs, like, you can pick, like, how long you wanna hold it for, you can pick, like, each setting, and I really like how, like, it doesn't just stop at, like, a specific, like, spot or whatever, because, like, with, like, Normatec, it goes from, like, 1 to 7. Rapid Reboot, it goes from, like, 0 to, like, 200, so you can, like, adjust it and stuff like that, and I really feel like the compression is just, like, more tighter, like, I don't know how to explain, like, it just, like it kinda feels like an ice bath just, like, without getting wet, and just, like, Normatec doesn't really, like, feel like that, to be honest, so, like, I just really like Rapid Reboot so much better.
Well, I know everyone has different preferences that way, but to your point, I think there's certainly more customization options. And kinda like you mentioned, I like that the pressure goes a lot higher because it's like sometimes you just need some, like, real high pressure to, like, squeeze things along that way,
Yeah.
so I'm right there with you, and you had mentioned something super important in there as well. You had mentioned about posting and how that led to building a following really, really quickly that way, and that's a conversation I know athletes all over the place are having with their universities, coaching staffs. Some even have, like, agencies that they work with and that sort of thing, which is absolutely incredible, but all of them are kind of stuck on this question of how do we grow a following quickly? What do we share? What do we post? And obviously, you've done that successfully that way, right? Like 30, 40 posts and you've got the K after your follower count, so you've officially made it, right? So what has that been like for you, and how do you kind of suggest other athletes go about doing something similar to what you've done? Because I know a lot want to do it, they just don't necessarily know how to do it.
So, like, one thing I did was I'm always on TikTok and stuff like that, and I always, like, scroll, whatever. So then, like, you just have to, like, see, like, what sounds are, like, trending for, like, the week or 2. You have to see, like, what everybody's watching. Cause like, the first video that blew up for me was when I had just, like, regular clothes on, and then I, like, transitioned to my uniform. Everybody loves the college uniform, like, they just love it, like, they really love it, like, I don't know why, it's just the uniform, but they love it. So then that was one of my first videos. That got about, I'd say 600K. So that's, like, how it just, like, blew up from there. And then you gotta see, like, what, hashtags are, like, trending from the week or 2. I don't know if I said music, I think I did. Well, the music, yes, and then you have to find a good caption. I usually, like, ChatGPT the caption because 'cause I'm not really good at it. But, like, yeah, I just, like, do that types of things.
And I think to your point, having an understanding of what is kind of in at the moment,
Mhm.
getting to the trend early and not being the one who, gets to the trend like 3 months after it was a thing, right? Like, that's usually what ends up happening to me. I'm a little late to the party, and that's okay, but I don't necessarily grow followings as quickly as you do, so I think there's so much value in that, and second off, I think sharing, like, unfiltered insights into who you are and what you're doing and that sort of thing, I'd imagine is huge. Like you were mentioning about transitions and, what you wear on the day to day to what your uniform is and that sort of thing that way. I'd imagine that's something that everyone wants to see because they don't know, the high school track athlete doesn't know what it's like to do a day in the life of the college athlete, so they want to know, right? There's a number of us, such as myself, who did not run track and field in college, but sure, we're curious, we want to know, hey, what was that like? So we watch the video, right? Like, it kind of gives us a glimpse into your day-to-day life. So I think it's really, really cool that you're able to kind of balance the concept of viral trends while also being authentically yourself and kind of sharing who you are and what you do with the world that way.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things that tends to come up a lot when we've talked with track and field athletes in the past is the concept of the nutrition that way and how it's different. In high school, it was like, "Oh, yeah, I just ate whatever I wanted," and then I get to college, and they're like, oh, protein shakes and different things that way. How have you gone about kind of dialing in your nutrition to help make sure that you're at your best when it comes time to compete?
Well, when I was in high school, I I was a little bit on the heavier side. I was like, I we can't keep doing this. So I've been wanting, to change my nutrition and diet since high school. So, once I got to college, I got very more serious about it because I was just you know, I need to start making a change now if I just want to be an elite, great athlete. So to be honest, it hasn't really been that much of a change to be honest. But I eat more lean foods like grilled chicken, salmon, different types of fish, seafood, stuff like that. Um, and then of course I had to portionize my food. I measure my foods very specifically so I know what I'm eating this day or the next day and stuff like that. And I also have a calorie app that I use to track my calories and stuff like that and the carbs, fat, and protein. So I have to, stay on track with those types of things so I can look back and be like, oh, what is this? So yeah.
I think it's awesome that you've kind of developed a process and a framework very early on because I think a lot of times, as you mentioned, it can be difficult, right? And you mentioned that you've got kind of your app and your process down now and that sort of thing. And I think the simpler you can make nutrition, probably the better off you're going to be. One and two, it's like everyone's always got their phone on them. I'm very guilty of that myself. So it's like, if you can just log it in the app quick, like you're going to be, and you got your phone there, you might as well do it and track it. And I think that especially now, competition level in sport is getting so, so fierce that it's like everyone is just looking for that slight edge that they can get when it
Mhm.
comes time to meet day. And it's like, maybe that edge is in nutrition, maybe it's in training, maybe it's in sleep, who knows where it is. But ultimately, if we're not tracking those things, then we're not going to be able to look back retrospectively and figure out where we went wrong and what we can do better for the next time. We're ultimately just guessing if we don't have that data, I feel.
And some people just think as being a college athlete, all there is to is just practice, training, 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 training. But the most important thing is definitely the recovery, sleep, eating right, and just being disciplined about yourself and your body and listening to your body.
I feel like, at least for myself, the sleep would probably be the most difficult thing because, like, when I was in college, like, I'd stay up. This is not late by any means, but I'd stay up until like 10 or 11. And now I'm in bed by like 8, 8:30 at the latest, and
Mhm.
it's absolutely beautiful, but it's like, if you want to do the, workload that it takes to succeed at a college level, the training and so on that way, like, I feel like that concept of 8 hours of sleep is not negotiable, like, you kind of have to do that, right?
And I used to go to in the fall, I used to go to bed at 10, 11, sometimes 12. And I'm just always tired, waking up, especially that first week of school. I was so tired and stuff like that. So I just had to change some things around. So now what I do is I get some maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, schoolwork a little bit done on Sundays. So I can get some sleep throughout the week and yeah.
Walk me through kind of the concept of the team component to all of this as well, because I'd imagine there's a bit of a shift when you're walking into, university, new teammates, new people to kind of be competing with that way. And track is unique in the sense that it is team based, but it's ultimately individual events, right? Like, when you're out there jumping, like you are representing your team, and as you do well, your team does better, but ultimately you are the one doing the triple jump, for example. There's not someone else that's going to be doing the triple jump at the same time as you from your team. It's ultimately on you. So I think that concept of team-based yet individual component of sport is super unique. And I'd love to hear more about kind of the team culture and dynamic and how you kind of go about being a leader and a voice for good very early on in your career here.
I really do like my team. They're cool and they're they're funny and stuff like that. But I mean, like, we are all, like, very competitive. So, like, I wouldn't say practice, like, serious, because like, sometimes we be playing around, and then, like, we gotta get, like, serious mode, like but, like, it's like I wouldn't say it's like a competition every day, but, like, we always, like we wanna push each other, and, like, that's what we do, like, it's, like, healthy competition, but we still, like, we wanna get things done, so, like yeah, then the travel is, like, very fun, like, I really like traveling with my teammates because they all make it fun. Because either when we're traveling, like, we usually play, like, Among Us, or we'll play, like, Roblox, or, like, we'll, like, watch some type of YouTube thing, or, like, something like that. We'll just do, like, random stuff. So it's just, like, really fun, and especially at track meets, like, people cheering each other on, like, like, when you get the clap going for the jumps, like, your team's clapping for you and stuff like that. It's just, like it's, like, a really fun experience, and then, like, we have this chant that we do, like, during the 4 by 4 and stuff, like, everybody comes together and, like, we're just screaming and, like, it's just very fun, like, the team is great.
I think it's so essential to have that element of fun and kind of like I it's a little cliche, but that family kind of feel to the team that way. I think if you can do that, you're certainly on the right direction that way. I'm not familiar with Roblox. Can you fill me in? Oh, what that is?
Oh,
That's a
Roblox
new
is
one.
like was there like a kiddie game? But it's like all these like different like mini games that like you can play with like friends and stuff and like can like join in a group and things like that. So yeah.
And it's one of those things too. I think the more you all can connect about things that are not just sport, the better off it is, right? We typically talk about this in relation to people when it comes to like work and occupations, right? Like, do you work to live or live to work? But I think the same is true in sport as well. Like a lot of times people put their full identity in their sport, right? And everything about them is track and field or soccer or field hockey or whatever. And it's like, in reality, there's so much more to people than that, what's your
Mhm.
family situation like? What's your faith situation like? What do you like to do for fun when sport is not in the picture? Like, I think the more you can kind of connect with people with those outside of sport elements, again, this is just my opinion, but I think the better that team dynamic becomes.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious, do you have any aspirations to coach in the future, or do you even coach younger track and field athletes now? And if so, what kind of things do you take away from your own experience jumping in the sport that way that you use to kind of help that next generation, if you will?
I don't think I see myself coaching after I'm done with track. But I be like, I don't know. Like I feel like I say that now, then I like end up coaching. But like when I was in high school, I used to like, give some kids advice. Like I always get a lot of DMs from little kids like saying like, "Oh my gosh, like I look up to you. Like how do you like, make it to like the college level and stuff like that? How was your process?" And of course, like I answer them, of course, and I give them like pretty good advice. I say like back to high school when I did, like, high jump and stuff like that, I would, like, coach kids kinda, like it was, like, during practice type thing, so it was like, "Oh, I'm there, you're there," so, like, I give you some tips and, like, it was pretty fun, like, I really enjoyed it.
What has been your favorite travel experience that relates to track and field, whether that's in high school or college? Like, where's your favorite like memory or place that you've gone with sport that way?
I definitely would say ACC indoors this year because we went back to back champions, and it just felt, like, really good because I scored about, like, 5 points, so it felt, like, really good to, like, be a part of, like, "Oh my gosh, like, I scored," like yeah, so it was, like that was, like, the best experience, and then, like, my other teammates, like, they were, like, just they were running, they were just doing great, they were doing amazing things, and you just, like you have just, like, this whole area, Clemson track and field, like, everybody's yelling, screaming, just having fun, and good time. So that was probably the best, like, travel moment for me.
Do you have a preference on indoor track or outdoor track, or does it really not make much of a difference for you that way? I've heard from different athletes in the past who certainly prefer one over the other that way, and I just find it interesting that way. Do you have a preference for one or the other, or about the same?
I like outdoor better because I feel like the heat, sun, you're outside, like, you can, like, breathe and stuff like that, and the tracks are usually faster outside. Well, they feel faster, so yeah.
And I know we've talked about a lot of different things thus far, but one of the things going back for a second, back to kind of what we're talking about in relation to social media and NIL and that sort of thing. I feel like a lot of times when I talk with people around that, they talk about kind of their personal brand and what they're known for that way. What is your personal brand? Like when people hear your name, what do you want them to think of and know about and that sort of thing? Like when they see you on ACC track and field highlights for long jump and triple jump, when they hear your name come across, what do you want them to think about and kind of feel in relation to kind of your own personal brand that way?
No one's ever asked me that, so I don't know. Oh gosh, this is hard. I guess I want people to know me as like, I guess the long jumper from Clemson University.
I've always got to throw a curveball in.
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Yeah. So probably, yeah, probably the long jumper from Clemson University. But I need to, I feel like I want to jump really big. Like I want to jump really, really big so people could just be like, "Oh, she's that 21-foot jumper, or she's that 22-foot long jumper." Like I want to jump really big first before like
Go big or go home kind of
yeah.
philosophy. So I think that goes along with, I think we mentioned this kind of before we jumped on recording that way. It also kind of goes along with that whole send it mindset, right? It's like you just got to go out there and you just got to give it your all and just freaking send it, right? Full throttle, and whatever happens, happens. And hopefully that thing that happens is the furthest jump and life is good from there.
Right, right.
Awesome. Well, I realize we could probably talk all day long about different things that way. Is there anything we missed as we were chatting today, or anything that we didn't get to discuss that you really wanted to, Aya?
I guess we can talk about the adversity I had.
Tell me, what kind of things did we face? What did we overcome? And how are we here now?
So my story is a little different from everybody outside of high school. Like you see like everyone having like these big jumps, runs and things like that. And they like find a college and they sign in November because that's like the typical like signing for track and field is November. But my story was a little different. So I started off high jumping, of course, like I said, and then it was at New Balance. And at New Balance, after I stopped jumping, I wouldn't say it was like an injury, but I had some type of like flare up going on in my Achilles and stuff like that. I think it was like an inflammation type thing, but not really like a tear, like an injury. So like, it was very hard to get back into loving the sport because I really just like wanted to quit and I did not like I just didn't feel like myself like how I was. And so after New Balance, which that was in the summer, I had to, take months off. So I think I took about 6 months off. I missed all of off season and then I had to come back in like January. So pretty much, I had to step my game up and I was just like I was behind of everybody. I was like slow on every rep. I was getting behind on everybody. I just, wasn't really my like myself like I said. And that's why I transitioned out of high jump because I wasn't really like in love with it anymore. And that's why I transitioned to long and triple because my coach just like recommended another like jump. Of course, I love jumping. And so I did that for a few months and I think I started long jumping literally last year, my senior year. So I started doing long jump and I did indoor. Yes, I did indoor. And then I did outdoor. My PR last year was 20 feet 8.5. And so I was just doing that for a few months. And then I originally I committed to Florida State. And then I just decommitted and I went to Clemson, of course, because I love my coach. I love the head coach. Well, actually, I love all the coaches. And I love the team. And I just, when that moment happened, I committed and signed in April of 2025. When that moment happened, it just brought so much joy to me and brought so much happiness to me. I was loving the sport again. And especially my event coach that coaches me in long and triple. He like I don't know, he just gave me, like, so much hope, he gives me, like, so much support, and he really helps me. He pushes me to my potential because he knows what I can do, but, of course, he has, like, really helped me, like, love this sport and not, like, put so much pressure because some coaches at college, they were like, put so much pressure on you, but my coach, he does not do that. Because he knows what I'm capable of doing, so, yeah.
You hit on so many amazing points there. I mean, the mental side of injury alone is something we discuss quite a bit that way because it's trying, it's challenging, it's taxing, and it's like you literally lose all control. You go from you can go out and jump and do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it to now I've got to wait for someone else to tell me.
Yeah,
It's no fun. It
yeah.
takes some of the enjoyment out of it, and I can certainly understand how that's challenging and difficult for athletes to go through and process mentally. And also, to your point as well, I think trying to make a decision around what college or university you want to attend at the age of like 18, 19 years old, give or take, it's challenging. There's a lot that goes into it and a
Yeah.
lot to think through. And I think that it's one of those things that there's never a right or wrong answer to it as long as you yourself are happy and you get what you want out of it. And in your case, it certainly sounds like you made the decision that was best for you and you just kind of felt relieved and enjoyment afterwards. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I never think that anyone can wrong someone for literally just doing what they feel is the best for them in the moment. I don't care if that's navigating the transfer portal or committing somewhere, decommitting, whatever it is that way. I really strongly believe that as long as you're doing what's best for you at the end of the day and kind of actually being a little selfish in relation to where you're going to spend your
Mhm.
college years at. And then once you're part of a team, shifting gears to how can I provide value to this team and how can I kind of become a part of the team and be a member here. But ultimately, you get to pick where that team is and what that looks like and that sort of thing yourself. I think that's really, really huge that way.
And adding on to senior year, like, even last year, I just had to, like, get deeper into my faith because, like, I would be honest, like, I was just, like, lost, I was gone, like, I just did not wanna do track and field no more, and so, like, I just had to get back into my faith and, like, just believing in God's plan and things like that, and then everything in the long run just, like, worked out.
I think that's huge. And I think the more we lean into faith as well, I just initially just first thought takes me to the book of Job. It's like, look, there might be a time in your life where everything is taken from you. But
Yeah.
if you remain steadfast, what returns to you is gonna be more than you could ever imagine beyond your wildest dreams. So, I
Mhm.
certainly think there's something powerful and impactful about leaning into faith in difficult times, and that's always where I've turned to as well over the last few years. It's like, sometimes you just play a little roulette, open it up to a random page, and somehow, some way, exactly what you needed to hear is right there in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
For people listening, if they want to find out more about you, we've referenced your social media a few times that way. Where can they find you online and that sort of thing that way?
Well, I'm on Instagram a lot, and my Instagram is Ayamarie, AIYA .MARIE, and then the number 12. So I'm on
Oh,
Instagram a lot.
that's awesome. We'll link to that in the description below. And did you mention TikTok before too, or no?
Oh, yes, I'm on TikTok, but not really as much as Instagram.
Instagram is where it's at.
Yeah.
So we'll share your Instagram handle, and because I'm old, I'll drop my MySpace link in the description. You might not even know what MySpace is.
No.
It was it was Facebook before Facebook, if you can even believe that.
Oh, wow, okay.
Way back, throwback, but this has been absolutely incredible. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today and really appreciate you sharing insights around track and field and your own story and journey that you're on. And I cannot wait to see how the rest of your career unfolds for you.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was so fun.